Good morning. It is chapter 30. I'm ready to eat. I'm so excited to share chapter 30, and then I got up and I got to I get a chance to look at chapter 31. So I am glad when God said you can come in my house. I was glad when he said it. Come into my house and learn of me. Sit down and dine. Let me feed you. Tell you what I got to say. Tell you what's on my mind. So this is number chapter 30. I already wrote me a little song to go along with it. Gonna work on it. And this is talking about, chapter 30 is talking about making a vow. Now, if you read this particular chapter, you have to really pay attention to it, because it will come across as if it's easy to read. But if you don't pay attention to the detail, you'll walk out with questions like, how did this connect to that? So, as a teacher, I am ready to show you what that teacher has learned. And I am getting ready to say to my Father, Father, thank you for this day. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Let your word flow in this earth, this part, this section, as it is in heaven. How you were thinking, let me see. Any corrections that need to be made, then I will do it. I'll humble myself and do it. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Give us this bread. What else is that? Give us this day our daily bread. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Hey, Miss G. And lead us not, don't let us get into temptation, but deliver us. When you see us getting ready to go do something we ain't got no business doing, get us out of there. But thine is the kingdom. You the big thing. You're the CEO. And the power and the glory, the beauty. Forever, amen. Like I say all the time, anybody, let me come in your house and get in your business the way God said, get to know me. You can go up under my bed. You can get in my linen closet. You can go in my closet. You can go in my trunk. You can go in my private stash. If you come close to me, I'll let you all over this place. And I'm telling y'all, I took the time to get into chapter 30. All right, let me tell you before I get into chapter 30, so you can understand the characters in this story. We're going to see God. We're going to see Moses. We're going to see the leaders that Moses was speaking to. We're going to see the man that he's going to describe first. Then we're going to watch this little girl grow up. And she's going to go through different phases in life, or she's going to be used in different phases of life. And then Moses is going to close what he's talking about. And then we're going to walk away with an understanding. So in everything that we get, you never go into the word and pick a scripture and then write a dissertation about it based on that one scripture. You can't do that. Every scripture is a flow. And this chapter right here flows. So it flows, and then you go back and you can refer to what it says to gain understanding, but never. I'm saying this because I've learned, and I'd rather tell you while I'm still alive, to let you know that take the word and let it be like a river that flows, and then you'll be able to say, I have a good understanding. Because God is just not going to let you just come searching in his house anywhere. You got to start at the door. And then he said, come on in. And then he'll tell you what things are. You got to sit down and he'll tell you what things are. You ain't going in God's house just all up in there, even though you invited, but you got to wait till he says it's time to go in the next room. You through, you looked over this part. Okay, now let me take you to the next room. So that's how you read the word. Otherwise, it will be a book that's very disturbing. It will be very complicated, and you will have something to argue about. But when you read it and allow it to flow, like I started, I didn't know this, but when he taught me how to read, then I paid attention to what he was doing. Then I saw how every single chapter tells a story. So if you sit up under anybody's teaching, they ought to be talking about not pulling one scripture out and making you feel like, ooh, I like that. Won't he do it? All of the foolishness that we do. Gain an understanding. This story right here in chapter 30 is going to flow. God does not need our assistance to talk about his testimony. You don't want to, if I went to court and I had to sit down and testify, please do not take out part of what I said and go tell somebody that's what I said based on, well, this is how he made me feel. It has nothing to do with your emotions. Emotions are real, but God's word is separated from your emotions. It is not an emotional book. He says what he said, and he moves on. This is like you read the word like you're running a business, in the fact that you're serious about your product and you're serious about who's working for you, because you don't want them to demonstrate, like if I go to what's the thing to make that coffee? Every time I get ready to think about them folk, I can't think of it. They make that good coffee. Every time how come I can't think of them folk? Yep. You say, yeah, Brenda, you can't think like that. I can't think of it. But anyway, go in and give me a cup of coffee. I need my son out here to tell me name that coffee. Miss G, what kind of coffee that plays at Starbucks? That's what I'm talking about. I don't go there much, but you go to Starbucks and you order a cup of coffee and you know the coffee is good. But Starbucks has to be careful who's serving the coffee. Are you going to serve it with the right attitude? So when we get into the Word of God, you just have to, I got so caught up with the coffee, I don't know how I was flowing with that. Anyway, if you're going to work for God and come into his house, you learn his word, and then you're going to be able to serve it with the right attitude, the right behavior, and be a demonstration of how he wants things done. I don't know how that tied together because I got stuck with Starbucks. But anyway, I want to talk about Moses, because I'm going to use Moses' wife as part of this, to help tell the story. In the 2nd chapter of Exodus, mind you, I have read every word of Exodus based on what I always go back to refer. I don't memorize it, but I do know where I can find it. But because the Bible is not about memorizing, it's just being able to be equipped to where you can go get your resources. In other words, if I got a cabinet at school, I know where my resources are. So the word is a resource as long as you know where it is. If you're a librarian, you ought to know where certain books are located. So that's what the word is saying. I know where this particular story is located. All right, Moses, God had given him a wife, and he moved into his father-in-law's house. He had come from Egypt, running away because he had killed a man. And he saw these girls, and the daddy said, what y'all doing back so early? And they said, this guy helped us. And then it was Moses. He said, well, where is it? So he brought him in. And then his daddy, the father of the house, told Moses that, he was pleased to have him as a guest. And I'm looking at that car. Anyway, he was pleased to have him. And over time, he gave Moses his wife Zipporah. All right, with Zipporah, Moses had 2 sons. Moses, doing his job, and he finally walked into this bush, saw it burning. And then he decided, he was inquisitive enough to approach it, and God said, take off your shoes. And then God spoke to him and told him how he wanted him to go back to Egypt and get them folk that had been, talking to him about tired of being in that condition. And God said, I need you to lead them out. Moses accepted the charge, told his father-in-law that I want to obey God, got permission to leave and to take his daughter, because now she's his wife, and his 2 sons. All right, so on their way, after God, he kept giving them instructions. On their way, they stopped somewhere around an inn, I-N-N, like a Holiday Inn or whatever type of inn it was. Moses, God saw Moses, and the word says that the anger of God was kindled against Moses, and God was about to kill him. This is it's between chapter 2 and chapter 4 of Exodus. I did type them out. I did have them out, but I left them in the house. But some kind of way, there is no verbal reason why God was getting ready to kill Moses and became in his fire and his anger. He was fired up over Moses. But what happened was, to solve and to get God's wrath off of Moses, his wife did something and God backed off. Moses had 2 sons, and God told Abraham, everybody in your family must be circumcised. And so one of those sons was not circumcised. So in order to get God to back off, Zipporah, his wife, when she saw, like one man said, I don't know whether Moses was having a seizure, I don't know whether he was choking, but he was on his way to die. Because somewhere in that conversation between Zipporah and Moses, it was established that he just backed off to the fact that, okay, you ain't gonna let me circumcise the boy, and I guess he was proceeding to pursue God's task. But God got angry and he was about to kill him. And then when she came out real hurriedly, she took the knife and she circumcised that boy and threw that skin at him and said, you are a bloody husband to me. And so you saw there was some discord right there. And then the Lord said nothing else. He moved on and kept talking to Moses. And they, okay, you and Aaron do this. In other words, I ain't got Zipporah up. If I told you to circumcise that boy, you are the head of this house. Whether you were in your father's house, whether you were in your own house, whether you're walking down the road, if she makes a decision to not follow my instruction, you override that. And that's not a whole lot that Zipporah said was talked about much more, directly, other than when she said, you bloody husband to me. So I don't really know what type of wife she was, but I do know that whatever she did after she circumcised that boy, God left Moses alone. So what happened to him, all I know is there was something that happened and God was saying, your wife don't run this. And when she went on and had that, it just said she circumcised her son with an N on it, not an S. So the other one had been circumcised, and then Moses went on and did what God told him to do. So I said that because I want to make sure that you understand when we start reading, I'm talking about a woman in the house, and I just wanted to use Zipporah to be probably a person I can use, a person of interest to try to show you what chapter 30 is talking about. All right, anything that I say that don't line up with the word, I have no problem with correcting it because I'm just as serious. I think that if I care about what I teach, and if you knew me as a teacher, you know that I care about what you learn in my class. That's just how I flow. And Moses spake unto the heads of the tribe concerning the children of Israel, saying, this is the thing which the Lord had commanded. All right, so they're on their way. They're almost to Canaan. They're almost to the promised land. Yesterday, the word was talking about how to, bring that offering correctly, and the different feasts and the different celebrations, and how to get up in the morning and bring an offering. So God is just making sure everything is everything. And now we're going to look at this like a business. So if you see it, he told them how to bring the offering, told them when to bring it, told them what to bring, and that would please the Lord. And if every church read Numbers 29, we'll be doing the same thing, because he gave us the date to do it and what date to do it. On the 1st, the 10th, the 15th, 7 days, and on the 8th day do this, and then close out, and then just continue to do what I said. If we did that, that's Old Testament. We don't do it like that. Anyway, I'd say that when I don't have nothing to say, I make a face. Well, there's Old Testament. We don't do that. We don't do New Testament. Whoa, Brenda, come on now. I'm tell you we don't. Because I'm finna show you what we need, what I need to develop in. We just talk about you. Okay. And Moses spake unto the heads of the tribe concerning the children of Israel, saying, this is the thing which the Lord hath commanded, not suggested, commanded. Now check this out. First, the second verse. If a man vow a vow unto the Lord, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. He said, now if a man, a male, makes a vow, you got to keep it. He said, I don't care what you say. If you say something and it comes out of your mouth, it is decreed, carried out. Because God said, that's how I do things. I speak and do. I speak and do. So a man has nobody able to pull him out. This is what God is saying to the children of Israel right before they got to Canaan. Because you're getting ready to come into a great possession. And you got to know how to run your business. So if you say something, you got to keep your word. That's how you're going to establish the difference between what people are already doing there. You're getting ready to bring something new. You are going to be set aside because you're going to say and do what you said. If you tell somebody, I'll be there at 5 o'clock, you can't be there at 5:01. You got to be there at 5. It's because you bound. Your soul was mixed into what you said. When you spoke it, then you everything inside of you had to be responsible for what came out of you. So what does that mean? You got to think. And ladies, that's a good way to know whether or not this man would be suitable to be your leader, because you choose your leader, ladies. You choose him. You don't have to marry a man just because he asks you. If you don't see leadership quality in him, then why did you choose to marry him? So the bottom line, God is saying, when a man thinks before he speaks, and then he carries out what he said, note that man. Because I'm going to tell you right now, God is saying, if a man says it, and he makes that vow, or he's opened up that business, or he said, you know, if I sell you this rug and it don't do you right, and you don't like it, don't fit, bring it back and I give you your money back. You can't change your mind so well, you took it too long. He said, you can't start that with me. That's Old Testament, that's New Testament. You know how we are. If somebody tell you something, they give you a receipt saying, if you keep this receipt, I'll give you your money back if you return it, and then you bring it back and follow the instruction. That man told you that. God says you better honor that. He said that word is forever. You can't back off that word. You got to know what you're saying before you speak, because that lets me know that you have a vision. You don't just say things, and you want your business and your vision to show integrity. And even Jesus said it. He said, don't make vows. Don't swear by this. He said, just say yes and no. Somebody come to you and say, can you mow my yard today? You say yes. That's it. Keep it simple. But he talking to the men at this time to show you this. Because when Jesus came, he said, all right, we're gonna say male and female. All y'all walk with integrity. Just don't go out there doing crazy stuff. You're gonna start your own hair beauty shop. Just keep your word. If you say you using a product, don't load that product up with other cheaper condition in an expensive box, because I'm gonna get you on that. That's New Testament. All right. So if a man said anything, then it is to death that he made that vow. So think about what you say before you say it. 3rd verse. If a woman also, she working in the same company as Zipporah, Moses' wife. I'm just using you to be my little character. If a woman also vow a vow unto the Lord, and bind herself by a bond, being in her daddy's house, in her youth, being young, staying at home with her daddy, and her father hear her vow, in her bond wherewith she has bound her soul, and her father shall hold his peace at her, then all her vows shall stand, and every bond wherewith she has bound her soul shall stand. In other words, if a girl at the house, living in the house with her daddy, and she tells somebody, I'm going to do this, I'm going to bake you a cake. I'm just using something light. And her daddy does not say, girl, you can't bake that cake. That girl got to bake that cake. Just as sure as she opened up her mouth and said, I'm going to do it, I don't care what comes up. I don't care. I did something last week. Like I'm trying my best. I made a commitment not to eat pork because of arthritis. It aggravates it. And when I saw it in the Word, I just checked it out. And then I made a mistake and had some pepperoni pizza. And I looked at the size. I said, oh, it ain't that big. You can't do that. I ate that pepperoni. But it went against my conscience because I had already committed to myself saying, okay, I'm going to stay away from pork. Because I can do it. All I got to do is just do it. So you don't say things like that, and then when something comes up, then now, I can just change my mind. This is all I got. I'm not saying that God will. I'm just saying, be careful what you say. Just don't say it. It's just better not to say it than to say it and don't do it. Oh, is God that strict? Just don't say it. I mean, just don't. What he's trying to get us to say is, if you're my children, then be like me. Speak the things and make it happen. But if you know, in other words, do you have any integrity? Do you have any integrity about yourself? Then don't say things that you're not going to do. Even if it's something that you said to yourself. Because the Lord is listening. But her daddy didn't say anything. He said, that girl got to keep her word. Young girl. She being young now. But if her father disallows her in the day that he hears, not any of her vows that he hears, not any of her vows or her bonds wherewith she had bound her soul shall stand. And the Lord shall forgive her because her father disallowed her. They getting ready to go to a new city. And he said, tell that girl don't be talking so much. And her daddy didn't say that the first time. Now she got to keep her word. But then her daddy heard her make a vow and said she was going to do something. He said, no, she ain't going to do that. Then the God said, I have forgiven her. And she's no longer under that oath. Because her daddy said it's not going to happen. Why? Because she's still living in my house. She's young. And so God is teaching them real young to be careful what you say. And then he said, and if she had at all an husband. In other words, like I said, Moses was living with his daddy, father-in-law. So right now, I saw different translations, and this got my attention. Say she got a husband in the house with her dad, same girl. And if she had at all an husband when she vowed, I'm going to tell you what that means now. She's still living in the house with her daddy, but her husband living there too. And if she had at all an husband when she vowed, V-O-W-E-D, when she made that vow, or other oughts out of her lips, in other words, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Where she bound her soul, in other words, that means that you committed, I don't care how many temptations, try to get you off track. And her husband heard it and held his peace at her in the day that he heard it. In other words, he didn't say nothing the day she said it. Then her vow shall stand, and her bonds wherewith she bound her soul shall stand. He said, you made that commitment. Your husband didn't say anything, you got to keep your word. But if her husband disallowed her on the day that he heard it, I heard you, baby. I heard you when you said it. But if her husband disallowed her on the day that he heard it, then he shall make her vow which she vowed. Then he shall make her vow which she vowed, and that which she uttered with her lips, wherewith she bound her soul, of none effect. He gonna say, baby, you ain't got to do that. Don't worry about that. You just talking to me. You were mad. Don't do it. And the Lord shall forgive her. So the woman has a covering. If the man says something, God's saying, you got to keep it. You got to do it. But if a woman has a father and she has a husband and they hear her say something because you said it out of your mouth and you shouldn't have said it, or it's something that you committed to, he said, if they hear you and then they get you out of the commitment thing that you did, the day you did it, quickly, he said, then you forgiven. You don't have to worry about carrying it out. But if they don't bring any correction to it, then you got to do it. But every vow of a widow and of her that is divorced, wherewith they have bound their souls, shall stand against us. So you committed to something. He said, if you're a widow, you don't have no husband to keep you from keeping your word. You don't have a widow. You got to carry it out. A divorcee, you got to carry it out. You just like the man. You got to you by yourself. The guy, he got to do it, and the widow and the divorcee. If you make a vow, you got to keep it, because the loving God, the God that is full of love, he understands that, I can do more things than a single woman does when I make a vow. I don't have any hindrances to keep me from keeping my word. I can do, because, if I'm divorced, or if I'm single, or I live, I'm on my own, I can carry the word says if you're divorced or if you're a widow, you just like the guy initially, you got to keep your word. If you tell somebody you're going to do something, then what's keeping you from doing it? You don't have nobody to block you. All right. Now, verse 10. And if we still talk about this girl. Okay, let's see the process is. If she vowed in her husband's house. I told the other house, her husband lived with the father-in-law. And if she vowed in her husband's house, or bound her soul by a bond with an oath, you put yourself, because God says you got to move. If you say something, you got to do it with all your might. There should be nothing that keeps us from carrying out our assignment. If you sign a contract, say you're going to be at work at 8 to 5, then that means under the circumstance in which you sign that thing, you need to be doing with all your might. Because the only thing that people going to recognize that we're godly is we keep our word. This phone is just doing some crazy stuff this morning. Whew. People calling, and I think some people are seeing me online and they just decided they're going to call me. I think you're very rude, and I'm going to delete you as soon as I will stop this video and delete you right now. And her husband heard it and held his peace at her and disallowed her not. The husband heard, and her husband heard it and held his peace at her. He heard you make the vow, didn't say anything, and disallowed her not, didn't stop her. Then all her vows shall stand. Whatever she said, being married in his house, and he didn't tell you that you couldn't do it. He said, you got to keep your word. And every bond wherewith she bound her soul shall stand. Now, if you told somebody, I'm going to clean your house up, and I'm going to be there at 2 o'clock, and your husband didn't come in just to interrupt what you were saying, he said, you got to be there too. But if her husband has utterly made them void on the day he heard them, on the day, don't let the day, don't do, say it's, hear her say it Monday, then Tuesday, you said, no, you can't do that. He said, but if her husband has utterly made them void on the day he heard them, then whatsoever proceed out of her lips concerning her vows or concerning the bond of her soul shall not stand. If her husband says she can't do it, then she's not obligated to do it. This is what God is going to honor. Now, we can say, I'm going to do it anyway, but I'm telling you how God going to pay attention to it. Her husband has made them void, and the Lord shall forgive her. Because, a lot of times, sometimes we say things without thinking. And if you got a covering or something came up and you need to get out of it, then you still got some support. But if you're a widow, you got to keep your word. If you're a divorcee, you got to keep your word. If you're a man, you got to keep your word. So we got to be careful not to say things, because we don't have anybody to go in and say, no, think about that. He said, no, it ain't going to be like that. Verse 13, every vow and every binding oath to afflict the soul, her husband may establish it, or a husband may make it void. In other words, if his wife said something that got her in some situation that's uncomfortable, her husband has the right to relieve it or support, said, okay, go ahead and get it done. Verse 14, but if her husband altogether hold his peace at her from day to day, in other words, we just, baby, where you want to go Monday? Well, you still going to, now he heard you make that vow, but from day to day, then he established all her vows or all her bonds which are upon her. He confirms them because he held his peace at her in the day that he heard them. He says, your wife made a vow And you ain't say nothing from day to day. He said, you just confirmed that she got to carry it out. But if he shall anyways make them void after that he has heard them, then he shall bear her iniquity. If your husband heard you say something from day to day and he never said anything, and then if he tried anyway to avoid it after that, he said, you can't do it. You shall, whatever trouble she getting ready to get in, you in trouble too. He said, you shall bear. In fact, I'm going to take the iniquity off of her and put it on you. Because now you made a decision to bring it up. He said, but the iniquity not going to, the consequence not going to fall on your wife. It's going to fall on you. So when you choose to get married, you can just be very selective. Man, I wish I had known all this that I'm learning. I wish somebody had taught me this. Instead of just getting married and then not paying attention to details. And then at the end of the year, at my age now, you know, I live with my decisions. But he just said if a man see his wife saying something, then oh, baby, and then you change your mind and see what she's gotten herself into. And then he said, you tried to go back and undo it. He said, He said, whatever she got herself into, and you didn't say nothing during the time you should have. Now, the iniquity is off of her. It's going to be on you. So we got to be careful that who we make our commitments to. Is this man, does he seek the Lord? I'm not talking about religion. Don't nobody want no man that's making a lot of noise. You want somebody who's about the business. Does he speak and say what he will do? Or if all he looking at you is what he want to do to you and how he want to make you feel. All that stuff is foolishness. These are the statutes. This is what God said. These are the statutes which the Lord commanded Moses. Y'all getting ready to go to the promised land. You got to have some stuff, because if you don't get it together, you're going to see some beautiful stuff over there in the promised land. And I need you to understand, don't go in there buying all that stuff. Don't go in there putting your hand on all that credit card. Don't go in there doing that. Don't go, because right now you coming straight out of prison or slavery. And you're used to somebody else making a decision. Now, I'm telling you that you're going to Canaan, and you're the one getting ready to make the decision. And I got to make sure you understand, don't commit to everything. Don't put your mouth on things that you can't carry out. Jesus said it simply. Let your yes be yes, and your no be no. Can I borrow your truck? No. You don't have to beg. You don't got to give everybody no explanation. He said, let your yes be yes, and your no be no. If you don't want to do something, don't add anything to it. Yes. No. But I'm not married to you, so that's my answer is no. My husband can override me if I'm married. Now there's a discussion. But if I tell you no, can I use your car? No. That's all you're gonna say? Yes. He said, God don't talk much. You just repeat what he said. These are the statutes which the Lord commanded Moses between a man and his wife. I'm letting you know how you and your wife got to do it. Between the father and his daughter, being yet in her youth. She's at home saying stuff, being young, while still in her father's house. I got a little song. I'm finna go in here and do a little something around the house, and then I'm gonna tape my song. And it's only a little jingle to remind you that God said something in chapter 30, so you can ever refer back to it. Because I think that when you solidify something with a song, we tend to retain it. And my goal is to absolutely share the word with you as much as I know how. And let me encourage you that, I don't really know how to do this friend thing on Facebook. I accept a lot of friends because I want people to hear the word. But I'm getting ready to do, if I'm not helping you, then I'm probably going to allow, because they give you so many people that you can have friends. And that's not my reason. I just feel like if I'm not helping you, and then, anyway, things got to change. But anyway, let's get in this word, because I feel like I'm offending some people because I came up in a particular organization that I will say things about how I was brought up. And I would say things, and I'm not trying to offend you, but I would dare not tell the truth. And if that's offending you, and then you say things to kind of get my attention in a way to make me feel like you don't like what I said because, you know, you still a part of the organization, so that it won't be a distraction, we can continue to love each other, then I had to shake the dust from my feet. And I had to just say, you know what? I don't have that kind of time. You can't drop things and say things that the word says, and it becomes a distraction to what I have to do, and I have to read this word. And again, I love absolutely everybody. But when it comes down to this word, I'm careful about what floats on my page. And I'm going to let my yes be yes and my no be no. I'm serious about this word. And I'll be glad when we decide to read it. Love y'all. Bye.